that my poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Did you notice it? Maybe you even felt it. I hope so, because the it I'm referring to is the secret ingredient in how to inspire, inform, or motivate action from any audience. We'll talk about that a little later. In the meantime, thanks for coming along to our winning presentations every time class. It's great to have you here. And yes, this is all about how you can become a confident, in-demand speaker or presenter without the stress and anxiety. There's nothing to buy here. It's just really valuable information that you can use immediately. My name is David Walsh. I'm in beautiful Sydney, Australia, and I wish that was the view from my private helicopter, but unfortunately not, or perhaps I should say not yet. In the next 40 odd minutes or so, we'll cover a lot of tips and information on speaking and presenting, including the importance of entertaining your audience. So that's precisely what I'll be setting out to do here. And just a very quick introduction so you know who's talking to you. I'm a speaking and presentation coach with almost 30 years of working for myself. I've made more mistakes than you can possibly imagine, but I'm always learning. And it's from all that experience that I know how much I can teach you in our session today. Let me start with a story that explains where all this started. Way back in the mid-60s, a skinny, freckle-faced Aussie kid was growing up in a little town west of Sydney called Leeton. His father, an English teacher at the local high school, his mother, the school secretary, trained in elocution with a keen interest in poetry. Now, this was a fairly ordinary kid, friendly, loved sport, but a serial academic underachiever. What he did have, though, was a sleeping talent that was only discovered by accident. You see, in those days, especially in Western New South Wales, boys played either Australian rules or rugby league in the winter. Tennis was sort of for sissies, and soccer was then just played in Sydney or Melbourne by ethnics. And that was a big problem for this young fella because he was so totally and irredeemably useless at playing either of the available football codes that the school gave him an exemption from winter sport, probably because of the risk that he'd accidentally get a hold of the ball one day and the other kids would kill him. Far too much paperwork. So on winter sports days, the school stuck him in the library with the other nerds for debating classes. And that's where this very well submerged talent was developed. He became a good debater, competed regularly, and at age 12 won a regional final in the New South Wales country metropolis of Wagga Wagga. Actually, quite a decent achievement, given that the other 11 finalists were all much more mature girls. Now, folks, you've probably twigged that our young protagonist here was yours truly, and that things certainly were very, very different in those days. It all worked out pretty well, though. I built a business around speaking and presenting, and I'm sure a lot of the old footballers of my childhood are now suffering from all those whacks on the head they got as a kid. Anyway, enough of this and back to you. My goal at the end of 45 minutes is for you to know the 3 key skills you need to be able to deliver a top, entertaining, maybe inspiring, but always effective presentation to any audience, from a single individual to several hundred or even more. And by effective, I mean fit for purpose, where you achieve whatever your intention is for your presentation. It doesn't matter what it is: an informal chat to staff or report to management, a sales presentation, a job interview, maybe even a eulogy at a funeral. The principles and skills in all these presentations are essentially the same. And it's why it's great communicators who seem to get ahead and get attention. They know how to engage with an audience, entertain them, inspire, and get other people to take action. They know how to sell products, services, and ideas, and promote their own personal brand. Now, like him or not, he's a guy who really knows how to promote himself. People listen to the communicators. They make a difference at work and right across their communities. They lead from the front, inspire action, and sometimes they change the world. And here's some really good news for aspiring speakers. You actually don't need a lot of knowledge, experience, or education to do the same and to become a very effective and charismatic speaker and presenter. So what that means is, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. I can't think of a single example of a career or profession where you don't need good communication skills to get on. Of course, written communication is important too, but it's your ability to speak, to sell yourself and your ideas verbally that sits at the very foundation of career success. So is it important to become a good speaker and presenter? Should we be encouraging and supporting our kids to improve their speaking skills? Go like this. You bet we should. Let's get into it. This material I have for you today is a summary of literally hundreds of hours of some of the best speaker and presenter training available anywhere in the world. Now that's a big claim, but before you think that my ego has gone completely ballistic, I can say it's amongst the best because very little of it is originally mine. Apart from that, come close and I'll let you into a little secret here. Good speakers use a number of hacks and techniques not only to entertain you, but also to get you to do what they want you to do. The best salespeople know this, and a number of these techniques are embedded in our class here today. See if you can spot some of them as we go along. Now, is this manipulation or some sort of psychological blackmail? You know, I don't really care, because when these techniques are used in a positive and constructive way, it's our audience who benefits. You see, I've been fascinated by the science of speaking and presenting ever since I won that competition in Wagga Wagga all those years ago. And since then, I've spent hundreds of hours researching and learning from the best of the best, avoiding the worst, adapting, practicing, making mistakes, and fine-tuning. And by the way, like so many successful people now, I have a coach. And this is how he keeps me practicing, learning and adapting, and most of all, accountable. So lots to cover here today. And at the end, I've got a free gift for you valued at $495 as my way of saying thank you for taking the time to be here. I said a moment ago that I'd rather talk about you than anything else. Let me start by saying that because you are here, I suspect I actually know you fairly well. Let's see how right I am. You're well qualified, experienced, and a dedicated employee, probably with a fairly stable job and reasonably good money. But here's what else I think I know. You also endure long days. You regularly sacrifice your precious weekends, and you're sick and tired of the crushing workload and constant time pressure. It never ends. You're really over commuting and bringing work home, and this is day after grinding day. Okay, you signed up for this, and you knew climbing the corporate ladder was never going to be easy. But it's just become too much to bear, and you desperately want to change something. But where do you start? How do you become one of the sort of chosen few who know how to communicate, who people listen to and look up to? These are the people who are popular and respected. With their silky charm and their riveting stories, it's this gift of the gab that sets them apart from the crowd. Every audience they get in front of seems to be entranced as they win hearts and minds, sell stuff, dazzle on stage, star in job interviews and in performance reviews. Don't you just hate these people? But interestingly, they're rarely more qualified or experienced than anyone else in the place, probably no more talented, and they sure as heck don't work any harder. But they do know how to present themselves, sell their ideas and promote their own personal brand. And I think that might be at the root of your frustration and disappointment. I hope not, maybe even resentment. Because again, if I know you as well as I think I might, you can see exactly what these corporate hotshots are doing. And you can practically taste the success and the recognition they get, but it always seems to be just out of reach. Sometimes that makes you feel trapped and suffocated as you get reminded day after day of the horrifying price of not being able to sell yourself and your ideas in the corporate jungle. And for a lot of people in the corporate or government world, this is a life sentence. Every single day you stay there is burning you up and sucking you dry. And here's another thing I bet I know about you. You've actually tried to learn and be a better presenter and speaker at work, maybe repeatedly, but it hasn't worked and you're sick of getting back up off the floor and trying again. And the memories of all those gut-wrenching, embarrassing times in front of suffering audiences are just awful. Palms sweaty, heart palpitations, hands shaking uncontrollably, knees threatening collapse at any moment. Every audience fidgeting as they fight the urge to nod off, check their watches or mobile phones, and finally some polite applause that ends everybody's misery, followed quickly by a bolt for the exit doors. The anxiety you suffer at the thought of the next time you have to get up in front of people and make a fool of yourself again is crippling and overwhelming. Am I right? It's awful and depressing, isn't it? Especially when you know you've got the talent and you want it so badly. Deep down it hurts and it's got to change, and you know it can change if only, well, I'm here to tell you it can change. Not only that, it's time. You see, I've developed a very successful way of creating great speakers and presenters very quickly. These people are getting all the results we spoke about earlier: respect, attention, promotion, better jobs. As a result, they don't just like what they're doing now, they love every moment of it. And all they did different to you is learn how to uniquely sell themselves and their ideas and build that personal brand I told you about earlier. And you know the fascinating thing? All it took was a decision to become a great presenter and speaker, and then a process of developing the confidence, the mindset, and the skills to do it. The desire and expertise were always there, but now they have the mindset and the tools to lead and inspire others. No more hiding in safe little spaces back at the office. These people are out and about grabbing all the opportunities they can find, earning the big money, the accolades, and all the satisfaction and personal rewards they get every time they speak to groups and big crowds. And the best part is they can keep doing this as often as they want for as long as they want to. And that's what I want to talk to you about in the next 30 minutes or so. If you, yes you, want to become an in-demand expert speaker and presenter with all the wealth, happiness and fulfillment that brings, then let me tell you, you're in the right place. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can do it. But let's just have a quick reality check first and agree that this is definitely not for you if you can't see the benefits and you're happy to remain a reluctant and ordinary speaker. You're not interested in getting noticed and promoted at work. Maybe you're not interested in selling ideas or products. But it certainly is for you if you want to get past your fear of public speaking, become a better presenter or speaker, lead change, get the recognition and promotions you deserve as an expert and a thought leader in your industry. And if you want to be able to sell ideas, products or services, then I can show you how to do it in as little as 8 weeks. I mentioned earlier that I didn't want to talk too much about myself, but very quickly, here's just a couple of comments that some of my clients have made. These are just a few of the people who are doing it right now. Okay, I'm looking for the sort of people who want to become a really good speaker and presenter, put a rocket under their careers and really make a difference in their workplace, in their local communities, as I said earlier, maybe even change the world. So my question now is that you? Well, if it is, like so many other people I speak to who never get started, it might be because you don't know where or how to start. You lack the necessary confidence and skills to be a good presenter. You're frozen by fear and crushing doubt about your own competence to be a speaker. Maybe you're convinced you're boring and you've got nothing to say or nothing that anyone would want to listen to. If that's ringing bells for you, I've got great news, because it doesn't have to be this way. You see, speaking and presenting are learned skills. Lincoln didn't just start speaking and then suddenly jump up and deliver the Gettysburg Address. Like every other great speaker, he knew what he was talking about, and he was confident that his message was something that people would want to listen to. And over many years and a great deal of experience, he developed the skills to deliver it in a way that inspired a nation. So from these sorts of examples, we know from observing and analysing the great speakers that we can narrow down 3 key skills that they all have that you'll need as well. The first 2 are what I call off stage, and the third is on stage. We'll talk about these in a moment, but before I do, let me put you completely at ease. I'm giving you this information with no strings attached. There's nothing to buy. It's just really solid, free information that you can use immediately. And at the end of the presentation, as I mentioned earlier, I have a gift for you valued at $495 as my way of saying thanks for being part of this. But before I do that, I have to provide the standard legal waiver. Let me summarise this quickly by saying that I can't be held responsible for what you do with this material, if anything. What I can say without hesitation is that every single one of my students has become a better speaker, no exceptions. And that's a promise I can make to you if you're committed and you put my ideas and advice into action. Okay, the first offstage skill is confidence. And confidence and attitude are part of what it takes to be great at anything. This is the head stuff, the mindset, the belief that you, yes you, can do it and maybe become one of the best speakers that you know. Let me illustrate a key lesson for me about confidence with a little story about my youngest daughter, Michelle. Some years ago, I was posted to Toronto in Eastern Canada with the Australian Trade Commission, Austrade, and the Department of Foreign Affairs. My family and I spent 4 wonderful years there. During that time, I met Bob Proctor, certainly one of Canada's finest and best known presenters, personal development experts, particularly famous for his Born Rich program. Bob invited me to several of his presentations and I took the family along. At the time, my 2 oldest daughters were teenagers, and you may have experienced this, but that's the age where we actually don't need to learn anything else because we know it all. But my youngest daughter, Michelle, was about 10 at the time, and she really took it on. We spent 4 wonderful years in Toronto. On one particular trip back to Australia, I think it was midterm leave, we always flew Qantas, the government airline. Michelle and I were chatting, and she said, "Dad, could we go up and see the pilots?" Now remember, this was a long time ago. That doesn't happen anymore. Well, we went up there, we asked the cabin crew, they were very happy for us to go up there. They weren't doing anything, basically the plane was flying itself. We chatted to the captain and the first officer, and the 2 of us flew into Nandi, Fiji in the jump seats, sitting behind the first officer and the captain. I thought they'd throw us out, but we actually sat there the whole time while we were landing. Michelle was absolutely fascinated, the way the lights, the levers, the dials, and the first officer just simply moving his hands a little bit and landing this enormous aircraft. Anyway, sometime later we were chatting at the family dinner table about this, and Michelle said, "I can fly a 747. And one of her sisters said, "Yeah, like I'd love to be a passenger in a 747 you were flying." Michelle sort of looked at her bemused and said, "Yes, I can. I just don't know how at the moment." Well, I can tell you there was stunned silence for about 30 seconds. And I thought, wow, with that sort of mindset, if we've been able to get that across to this child, how can she ever fail? Turned out I was right, because she's now aged, well, let's just say she's a little bit older. Here's a few shots of the launch of a major feature documentary that she just made in New Zealand. It was distributed all over the world. Now, if you know anything about rugby, you'll have recognised Richie McCaw, the most successful captain of the most successful national sporting team in any international sport in history, anywhere in the world. Maybe the American basketball team is up there as well. And of course, I'm referring to the New Zealand All Blacks. Back-to-back World Cup victories in 2011 and 2015, still virtually unbeatable every time they play. Michelle's film, Chasing Great, recording Richie McCaw's rugby journey, remains the highest grossing New Zealand documentary ever made. And now with her partner Leon, my favourite son-in-law. She's running a multi-million-dollar television production company out of New York. So, as a very proud dad, if you'll indulge me for a moment, I think I can say the kid has done pretty good. But what's this mean for you? Do you think confidence and mindset might have played a role in all that? Would you launch a project like that thinking, well, might work, may not work, we'll give it a shot, see how it goes? Or would you launch it with the steely resolve that you'll do whatever it takes to make it work? Well, congratulations if you figured out the answer to that, because it means that you understand confidence is at the very foundation of every achievement. It really all comes down to right thinking and what's going on in our subconscious mind. There are a number of things you can do before you speak that will remove most of the anxiety that we all feel. Yes, you heard that right. We all get it. The key is control. The obvious one is practice. Let me ask you another question. Do you think the best people in everything had to practice to get to the top and keep practicing to stay there? Is practice really that important? Well, of course it is, especially for people like athletes, ballet dancers, race car drivers, mountain climbers, where fitness, muscle memory, endless repetition, and physical and mental strength are required to get to the top. And what about here? And here? Thought leaders, writers, singers and musicians, actors, airline pilots, the emergency services, chefs, surgeons and business leaders, and speakers and presenters. For these people, practice and preparation may be less physical and more about study, research and rehearsal, but their proficiency is equally dependent on repetition and mindset. It's all practice. That's right, the best speakers are no different. The great Spanish violinist Pablo Sarasate said, "A genius. For 37 years I've practiced 14 hours a day and now they call me a genius." Jim Rohn said, "Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day." I don't want to labour this here, you get the point. Practice is the difference between good and great, mediocre and magnificent. Practice gets you out of your comfort zone, stretches your boundaries, refines and tunes your body and mind, smashes barriers. So what can you do as a speaker and presenter to practice effectively? Well, start by filming yourself or get someone to do it for you. Is it easy? Yes. All you need is your mobile phone and a helper or a tripod. You don't even need that. Prop it up on a table. Will you make mistakes? Yes. Will you look stupid sometimes? Yep, probably. Does that matter? No, because you're not up for an Emmy here or an Academy nomination. It's for you and the people who are helping you. Here's the thing, even if you never become a particularly good speaker, you will be better each time you practice. The second take will be better than the first. The 15th, way better than the 5th. The competition is not between you and Martin Luther King or even your local Toastmasters champion. It's between you and you. Start small, break your presentation into bite-sized chunks, maybe 30 seconds, and build from there. Note how you move, your body language, the pitch and volume of your voice. Do you look confident? Where did you stumble? Are you exploiting the dramatic effect of pauses? Then do it again and watch how you've improved. Toastmasters is another great way to get practice and ongoing support to improve your speaking. It's a safe environment, incredibly supportive, and you'll learn a lot. There are Toastmasters chapters all over the world, and there's certain to be one in your own local community. If there's not, start one. Check YouTube and the internet. It's all there how to do it. Look, there's no excuses here. If you tell me you can't see the benefits or you don't have time to practice, video yourself or join Toastmasters, I'm going to tell you you're not hungry enough to do what it takes to change. Okay, apart from practice, what else can speakers do to build their confidence? Visualization or meditation can be very effective. Every time I speak in public, I visualize a top performance and a standing ovation. Now, I don't always get that, but visualization helps me build pictures of success in my mind, and that makes me feel good. And when I feel good, I feel confident and powerful, and I know I'm giving myself the best possible chance to perform at my best. Deep breathing from the diaphragm, slowly, through the nose and out through the mouth, is another powerful way to build and maintain confidence before and during a presentation. Singers, sports people, anxiety sufferers, health professionals all know the importance of effective breathing. And I mentioned before and during a presentation for a reason. Before, to help with anxiety and nerves, and during, to help maintain control. Whenever I speak, I write on my hand, or if I have a lectern, I write on a post-it note the word breathe. And it reminds me to do just that. Now, I'm no expert on why it works, it doesn't matter, but I can tell you it does work. Just Google diaphragmatic breathing and you'll find all the evidence you need. These are just a few useful techniques, but remember, the foundation of confidence is found between your ears. I'll say it again. Foundation of confidence is found between your ears. Now, I could go on here like I know a lot about this, and I do, but only a fraction of what this bloke knows. So let me just defer to a real expert. Anthony Robbins is a man who I think has done more than anyone else to popularise and uncomplicate what psychologists and academics have known for more than a century. In my opinion, Robbins has most successfully packaged the vast array of the writings and research of the most learned academics and the best authors, presenters and researchers the world has ever seen. You may have seen or heard of him, a powerful, charismatic, entertaining and extremely knowledgeable speaker who has had phenomenal success speaking, coaching and working with people all over the world. There's a huge amount of his material on YouTube and all over the internet. Just Google Anthony Robbins and Developing Confidence and you'll see exactly what I mean. I attended his very first 3-day Date with Destiny seminar in Australia, and with the firewalk, board breaking, Everything else he presented, I still remember it as one of the most profound experiences of my life. And by the way, my daughter Michelle, who I spoke about earlier with Chasing Great, the Richie McCaw film, came along with me as a 16-year-old and got a tremendous amount out of it. Isn't that interesting? The second core skill you must develop to become an effective, that's fit for purpose, speaker and presenter is also what I call offstage. To know the needs and wants of your audience and deliver on those. But before we go into that, let's understand a little bit about human psychology and the secret of what really motivates people. If you're able to get very close to each individual in your audience, and of course, without offending them, you're able to look inside their ears, you'd find something very interesting. You'd find that just inside everybody's ears, there are tiny little hairs. Now, I want you to imagine that each one of those hairs is a radio antenna that is tuned to just one frequency, nothing else. And that frequency is WII-FM. Now, that's important for us because as speakers and presenters, it's useful to think of WII-FM as an acronym for What's in it for me. In other words, we need to understand that no one in the audience is really interested in anything other than themselves, their own needs, and just what they can get out of your presentation for their own use. And what that does is force us to really focus on our audience's needs and not on our own. Zig Ziglar confirmed that when he said, you can get everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. Boy, isn't that right? Okay, now that we understand what really motivates people, we can better appreciate the context and purpose of our presentation or speech. This could be anything, but you only need to know which of just 4 basic types of speeches to use to nail down the purpose. Firstly, there are informative speeches, where we might provide information such as sales data or the new direction the company is taking. Secondly, demonstrative or educational, such as how to play the bagpipes, learn origami, play poker, whatever, do anything. Thirdly, we've got persuasive speeches, which we use to inspire or encourage the audience to do or be something. Winston Churchill's famous "Fight Them on the Beaches" speech was a great example of that. And finally, entertaining speeches, when the sole or major purpose is just that. Have a laugh, tell stories, make the audience feel good. Now, as we explore the wants and needs of our audience, we need to know very clearly who is the audience. Sometimes that's obvious, such as team members in a particular division at work or property investors looking at new opportunities. Maybe the happy couple and guests at a wedding. But sometimes an audience analysis is required to ensure we can hone in closely on their needs. That might require research into demographics, gender, age range, marital status, race or ethnicity, maybe socioeconomic status, or an analysis of psychographics, factors such as values, opinions, attitudes and beliefs. Situational analysis might also be required. Things like what the members of your audience have in common and even where your presentation is being delivered. Are you speaking at an event where there's lots of relaxing and fun going on? Were they partying the night before? That's one to be careful of. In other words, why are these people going to be sitting in the room listening to you, and how receptive are they likely to be? Going back to those little hairs in people's ears, what's in it for each one of them by coming along? Do they have to be there? How motivated are they to take on new ideas or suggestions? What events, concerns and needs do they have in common that have motivated their interest? What are their hot buttons? Maybe what's competing for their attention is important. And that brings me to the physical environment of the speaking situation. The size of the audience, layout of the room, structural factors such as columns or other blind spots, whether a podium, whiteboard or a microphone are in place. Is digital media available? Are visual aids or props required? Beyond the room, are there outside factors such as traffic noise, distractions, sun shining through the blinds, maybe other situational issues that you better know before you turn up? I did a training session for a local auto repair company in Sydney not long ago, in their workshop, having to rest my notes and props on the car hoist. Now, you can imagine that definitely required some special adjustments, and it's a good example of that situational analysis that you might have to do as you prepare your presentation. So a huge number of things to consider and so many variables. Just remember that WIIFM illustration I gave you. 99 times out of 100, if you have a pretty good idea of your audience, their wants and needs, their expectations of you as their presenter, and you meet those expectations, then you'll pull it off. The third skill you must have is on stage. Before anything else, you must develop the ability to entertain before you can move people to change their thinking or take some form of action. You may not need to develop this particular sort of skill, but you must entertain at some level. I don't care how good or important your message is, it'll fall flat or on deaf ears if your audience is bored, or worse still, you put them to sleep. And entertainment doesn't necessarily mean funny. It might be deadly serious, where your intention is to be thought-provoking, inspiring, challenging, or insightful. While we're on the subject of humour, getting a few laughs is very useful and effective, and it's a great tool in the arsenal of the best speakers and presenters. People love to have a laugh. But it must be appropriate humour, because of the deadly danger of inappropriate or poorly delivered humour. Look, you can destroy a speech or presentation with bad humour. Never mind a speech or presentation, you can very easily and very swiftly sink an entire career with inappropriate humour, especially in front of the wrong audience. I think this might be the guy who told a joke about his boss. Apart from that, never use humour that is sexist, ageist, racist, or just about any other ist you can think of. We're over it. It's gone. It's 1990s stuff. I don't care whether you're sure you can get a laugh out of it. It's a big fail if you offend just one person in your audience. It's lazy, self-indulgent, and it can backfire with spectacular consequences. But humour in public speaking is so important, it's worth a moment to provide a few guidelines. Firstly, again, be careful. Avoid offence or jokes at other people's expense. And thirdly, run it past some cool heads if you think you can get away with material that laughs at or takes a shot at someone else's bad luck, their idiosyncrasies, their experience, their habits, whatever. The one exception is self-deprecation, which is a fancy word for laughing at yourself. A dig at yourself will usually warm the audience to you as well as often get you a laugh, and that's always good. So, summarising entertainment, we could say that it's all about how well you can hold people's interest, both in terms of the content you're presenting and the way you present it. Now, do you remember right at the start, the short clip of Martin Luther King we saw? I said that there was one word that is the secret ingredient that any speaker or presenter must tap into to inspire, inform, or motivate action from an audience. Well, here it is, authentic. And if there's another related word I'd use, it's sincerity. It's amazing how well an audience can spot insincerity. You'll ruin any chance you have of delivering a great presentation if the audience thinks you don't believe in what you're talking about. Stories are a valuable tool as well, and you've already seen me use stories in the short time we've had together today. We grew up with stories, and people love a good yarn that demonstrates a point or delivers a message, especially if it's something that your audience can relate to. For example, tell them how other people have used your message to get happiness or wealth or satisfaction or some other usefulness that they can imagine they can get as well. Seriously, I think stories are so important in your presentations. I'm going to challenge you to find one in every presentation you make. I don't care if it's the driest and dullest topic imaginable. There's a story in there somewhere. Find it and use it. Now, entertainment is obviously a subjective area, which means that some people are entertained a lot easier than others. For example, I've found that American audiences are much easier to entertain than British audiences. I've had a standing ovation in front of an American audience before I even started speaking. Kiwis can be a bit hard to please too, especially for an Aussie like me. In different parts of Australia, even different parts of Sydney, audiences respond in different ways. There's no particular science in this. You need to be confident of your message and your own ability to deliver it and adjust within your own style to whatever is needed. But if you focus on WIIFM, I can promise you, you're really more than halfway there. Again, get on YouTube. It's a fabulous resource and watch the greats in action. Copy their techniques. Watch how they use volume, pitch, anticipation, stories and metaphors, graphs and stats, side-by-side comparisons of data, audience interaction, pauses, props, humour, pacing. The list of tricks of the trade is endless. Notice how great speakers tease and titillate, hold stuff back, then release it for maximum effect. Another important factor in whether or not you entertain your audience is how you use PowerPoint or Keynote for Macs. Wow, that's a massive subject in itself. Again, go to YouTube. It's all there, it's free. It just takes a bit of time and effort to research the available material and then develop your own unique, natural style that you're comfortable with. So I said earlier that my goal for this presentation was to identify the 3 big important skills you must develop to become a great speaker. And these are, firstly, offstage, confidence in yourself, your subject, and the right mindset. Secondly, also offstage, is understanding and preparing for the wants and needs of your audience. And thirdly, on stage, is delivery that meets audience needs as it entertains, challenges, inspires, or informs them. So how did I do with the goal I said earlier? Well, if you're someone who really wants to learn how to become a great speaker or presenter, here's the opportunity I see for you. There's never been a better time when the world is crying out so loudly for people to teach, lead and inspire others to be more and to do more. And that means as a great speaker, you'll be in hot demand to meet this need. You'll have all the tools and the skills you'll need to become recognized as an expert, to lead and inspire change, to win status and position yourself for promotions at work. When it comes to speaking, there are just so many opportunities available that you really can have, be or do anything that you want. It just comes down to your dream, how badly you want it, and what you're prepared to do to get it. So I guess at this point in our time together, you really have 2 choices. You can park everything I've just told you and go on hoping that one day, magically, you'll somehow acquire the skills and knowledge to become a great speaker or presenter. That's okay, but it's a wasted opportunity because your other choice is to grab the chance you have now with the gift I promised earlier and find out more. So here's how you can get that gift. Tell me about yourself and what you want to achieve, and I'll put together a personalized plan for you, like a roadmap to become a very good speaker and presenter. This is potentially truly life-changing, and it's a fast track because I'll show you a process that can get you there in as little as 8 weeks. There's no need to put in years of planning and research because I've done it all for you. And here's the best part. There's no cost or obligation, and I can deliver your personalized blueprint in a 45-minute phone conversation anytime that suits you. Sounds good? But wait, there's more. And no, it's not steak knives. After we talk, you'll have the opportunity to video yourself and send me 3 examples of you in live speaking situations. Strictly private, just me and you. I'll critique those and give you honest feedback on how you could improve as a speaker. Does that sound fair? I certainly hope so, but I need to tell you up front that there is a catch. You see, this is only available for the next 72 hours. That's just 3 days and only to the first 7 people who contact me. Now, that's not some sort of manipulation to sell you something. There's actually an important reason that may not be immediately obvious. You see, scarcity helps me push away the interested and attract the committed. I talked about that earlier. Find the people that I want to work with. I know that these 7 action takers will be hungry for success, sick and tired of mediocrity and underperforming, and that they'll be coachable. Not only that, they'll be committed and itching to start making the changes they want to make, like now. That's the mindset that's needed to be good at anything. Commitment and consistency. How simple is that? In other words, you've got to want it. You've got to be prepared to do whatever it takes, and you've got to show up to get it. That's it. Please don't tell me that you need to think about it for a while, or you might get started with things quiet down a bit, or that a new government could change things at work. Your cat's got the mange. They're excuses, and I'll call them out every time I hear them. That's what I do with my coaching clients. It's what my coach does to me, thankfully not with a revolver. And I'll let you into a little secret. It's part of the reason that we're successful. My response to excuses is usually 2 words. You can figure them out for yourself. Just in case you're not sure, here's a hint. The first word is bull. I know that's blunt, but seriously, if the pain of what's going on for you at the moment is not high enough, if you don't really get the benefits of what I've talked about here, if change is not really important at the moment, or you're not prepared to commit to do whatever it takes to make necessary changes, I'm sorry, I'm not the person to help you discover that there's actually no magic pills. Learning or honing skills in anything won't work unless you do. You may have heard it takes 10,000 hours of study and experience to become an expert. I don't know if that's true. I do know that you've got to commit and show up to achieve it. So, are you up for the challenge? If not, ask yourself this question. Ask it seriously. If not now, then when? And if you can't answer that, ask yourself honestly, how much is procrastination costing me? In lost opportunities, in unhappiness, in strained relationships, in low or zero job satisfaction, as well as how much being stuck in a rut is costing in dollar terms. What's your life worth? My great mentor Bob Proctor said, the saddest thing at a funeral is often not the death of the body, but the death of all those ideas and dreams that person had. The things that they were going to do or become, but never did. Don't die with the music still in you. If you want all the rewards of being a great speaker or presenter, and if you want to eliminate the crushing fear and doubt that holds you back from getting those rewards, click the button below and organise a time to speak to me for just about 45 minutes. Here's what you'll get if you move fast. You'll get a personalised plan for a fast-track solution. I'll help you solve the biggest speaking and presenting challenges you have. You'll get lifetime access to my private Facebook training academy. Yep, lifetime. My personal critique of 3 videos of you speaking. You'll get an opportunity for both of us to assess whether you're the right fit for what I do. Now, this is important because I'll be assessing your suitability as much as you'll be deciding whether you want to work with me. There's no more stress, no more anxiety, no more wasted time wondering if you'll ever do it. And there's no cost or obligation to get all that. And if you think I've wasted your time in that 45 minutes, I'll send you a free mini speakers course as compensation. And we'll part friends. Is that okay? But please be quick. Again, because it's only for 7 action takers who are committed enough to contact me in the next 72 hours. Okay, it's over to you. I sincerely hope you've got great value out of this, and whatever you decide to do, please take one thing from this time we've had together. Keep working and improving your speaking and presentation skills. It's worth every minute you spend doing that, because if you get this right, I promise it will change your life. This is you incorporated, and only you and maybe a few other people close to you really give a toss about what you do with your life. I know that's blunt again, but it means that you owe it to yourself and all your supporters to make the most of the opportunities you have and to realise your potential. But the clock is ticking. There is a fast track available. But if that's not for you at the moment, don't ever forget that any time you devote to self-improvement is time well spent. Great. Click the button now. I'll look forward to speaking with you again very soon and getting you started on this very exciting journey.